Welcome back, Nerdy Bunch, Nerdie Sports audience. We're back for another podcast. We're going to talk strictly football today. So it is December 12th. Is that correct, Scotty?
It is.
Yeah, December
Yes, it is.
12th, 13 days away from
Ooh.
Christmas. We're going to give you guys a
Exciting.
Christmas segment. Naughty or
That's
nice? Are you on
Naughty
the
or
naughty
nice?
list or the nice list? You know,
Tim,
and
are you
if
on a naughty list or a nice list?
I think I've been a good boy. I think I'm on the
Okay.
nice list, you know? Recently got a
Let's
new
see. Last
car,
check.
got a baby on the
Tim has been
way.
nice.
I'm nice. I hope so.
The
Been
coffee
a good
gods
boy
say
with
you're on the way.
work. Made my Eagles. So let's start with the Eagles. Why not? Let's start with the
Yeah.
Eagles. Because I'm
They're
wearing the
falling on the naughty
Pennsylvania
list a little
shirt.
bit right now, so
Yeah, I mean they got Vegas coming up this week, so
that's a get right game.
they gotta win. Like that's minus 11.5. They gotta win that. But then they finished the year with the Commanders, the Bills, and then the Commanders again. So like they got an easy schedule outside of the Bills. They should be able to be fine. I'm not like concerned when it comes to the playoffs, but if you look at the Vegas odds, they're pretty much projected to either lose in the first or a second round. Vegas isn't even giving them one of the
Yeah.
best odds to win the Super Bowl. Right now, they're plus 1100 to win the Super Bowl. And this is a team that was favored to win going into the season when it came to the NFC. This is a team who won last year. They won. I don't know if people remember this. They won last year.
They did.
You know, we'll save the Chiefs, the team that lost, for next.
Oh yeah, we'll get to them.
But I could understand if you feel the Eagles are on the naughty list. They're dysfunctional, to say the least. They find out how to win. But the last 3 weeks, 3 L's in a row. And in the beginning of the season, they had the back-to-back losses with the Broncos and the Giants. And we thought, okay, that's get right. And then they beat the Vikings, Giants, Packers, Lions. But then they go to Dallas, lose. They host the Bears. The Bears run it
Lose.
down their throats. And then they lost in LA versus the Chargers, which was technically a home game based on the fans.
Yeah,
They've been tight matchups, but I don't feel confident that this team could win the Super Bowl. But I've hope. Where are we at in your mind?
it's strange because there is no other team, first of all, that you can say when they're best, and you could argue because Saquon has taken a big step back this year. I know he had his first 100-yard game. And when their best weapon, and you could argue is A.J. Brown, played well, they play bad. His last 3 games, he's had 100 yards plus every game. You could argue his last 3 games have been his 3 best games, and they've lost all 3. And obviously, not shockingly, you notice that he's not tweeting anymore or complaining because he's getting his catches and his yards. So he's like, I'm okay with a 3-game losing streak. I got a 3-game streak, 100 plus yards. And I'm not necessarily blaming it. It's just a weird thing that the way that directly lines up. You know, for the Eagles, you're going to beat the Raiders. Everybody's going to beat the Raiders. You're probably going to make the playoffs. If they don't make the playoffs, that's like, 5-alarm fire. But, this was supposed to be a chance to repeat. I know every team that wins a championship, you feel like can. But they definitely felt like, they were missing nothing. Like basically the entire team comes back. You can't say they had some devastating injury that changed the season. Every team has injuries here and there, and not Lane Johnson, but that's later in the season. So you can't blame that. They're just a weird team. I've never seen a team like this. You go back a couple years that they almost win the Super Bowl, then they have like this weird season. Then they win the Super Bowl, and now they're having another weird season. I don't know how to describe it. It's a weird thing. But they are going on the naughty list because for them, I'm grading on a curve, and their curve is that I can't see them getting out of the first round, and that's like missing the playoffs for most teams. We'll revisit if they miss the playoffs, how bad it would be. This season is on the brink of being a miserable season. First round bye for them is a miserable season. You have to grade differently. We'll grade some other team very harshly soon. But for them, this will be a very bad season. And I think their big problem is what do they do with coaching? Because they're going to get a new offensive coordinator. Probably, I think we could all sure agree that. Jalen Hurts, 4th or 5th offensive coordinator. It can't be good to constantly be taking new offensive coordinators. It's got to be a toll to have to deal through that every year. Learn the playbook. They talk about like a different language. So I don't know. You could even argue. I know you just won a Super Bowl. Does this put Sirianni on at least a warm seat? I don't want to say a hot seat, but say entering next year, it's a little warm. They put the simmer on the stove, right? Because you're the head coach. You have to fix this, and this is a mental issue, Becky, so to say, like a coaching issue. It's not a physical player's issue. The team is stacked. This you would consider a mental issue, so to say, or a coaching issue. So I think you put the simmer on him on the stove. I'd say the simmer's on. It's not hot, but it's heats up.
Yeah, I mean, according to Sharp Football Analysis, they're 15th. They're a mediocre team right now, according to, the odds of how they're playing on the field. And they're showing it. 3-game losing streak is not acceptable for a defending champion. Yeah, they're lucky they're in a pretty bad division right now. But the Cowboys are rising. They may have lost last week, but they're rising. And the Eagles are plus 18 for the season. But just the point you made, A.J. Brown complained. A.J. Brown's not playing well, and the team's not playing well. And when I watch the game, it seems like Hurts is really trying to make sure A.J. Brown is happy. And that should not supersede everything else. The superstar should not come before the team. So let's move on to the defending losers,
Conference
I guess.
AFC champions.
AFC conference champions, yes. A team that's been a dynasty, to say the least. You know, one of the greatest, oldest coaches. A team right now, by the way, minus 750 to miss the playoffs.
That is hard. It's shocking.
Yeah. 6-7. They seem to lose every close game. Their point differential's plus 63. Sounds great.
That's crazy.
Kelsey is statistically doing fine. He's like number 3 fantasy tight end right now. Rashee Rice, he had the suspension. He comes out. He's playing well. The last game versus the Texans, versus a team that we weren't really given a lot of credit because we just didn't feel the defense was going to be enough. But for the first time, I started the game and I'm like, oh, of course the Chiefs are going to get right here. But then 5 minutes in, I thought easily, Texans got this. I'd be shocked if Mahomes could overcome this. The Texans were beating them up so bad, so that later in the game, they were dropping those passes. Here's a Chiefs team, if we look at analysis, 20th. They're bottom 12, according to Sharp Football Analysis. According to just how they're playing on the field. That's how this ranking is projected. They are dropping really fast. And they are not going to make the playoffs this year. They have to scrap it. Obviously, people love Mahomes. There's a new podcast on the Rainer, Max Kellerman, former First Take co-host with Stephen A. Smith. He's now on the Rainer. They started with the Chiefs. I like their podcast. They basically have a whiteboard. It's the first episode they had. And they basically, put like, who are the biggest topics? They got Chiefs, Bills, NBA Cup, Ravens, talk about the big hitters. Giannis, is he getting traded? And I still stay consistent. I don't think Giannis is getting traded. But they're talking about the Kansas City Chiefs. And Rich Paul talked about maybe Mahomes goes to Dallas Cowboys. It's good for his image. Andy Reid could be a coach on the downward decline. This happened to Bill Belichick. This happened to Pete Carroll. Once you get older like this, it's really hard to continue. And we keep wanting to give the Chiefs more hope. This year, specifically, they're done. There's no way. They're in a really good division with the Broncos and the Chargers. There's no chance they're going to make the playoffs. They're literally 5 games behind the Broncos, so they would have to get a wild card start. And actually, the AFC South with the Colts, Texans, and Jaguars is a lot better than we thought they'd be. And for them to lose to the Jaguars and the Texans, they lose to every team that has like a good defense. Mahomes doesn't have all the star power in the world, but their defense is good enough that they should be able to play well. They should be able to beat teams like the Jaguars and the Texans. It's really pitiful, the fact that they've lost to the Cowboys. The Bills and the Broncos, I understand. The Chargers and Eagles in the beginning of the season, I understand. But having back-to-back losses versus the Cowboys and the Texans, it's tough. Losing by 10 points at home versus the Houston Texans seems like a demise. Now, they could come back. Last thing I'll say is they could come back this week, win versus the Chargers on the road. They're going to have plenty of fans. Kelsey goes 6 catches for 105 yards. And then they're hosting the Titans. And then they could get back and beat the Broncos at home. And then they close the season with the Raiders. If they rattle off 4 more wins, 10-7, they can make something happen. Minus 750. That's no coincidence.
I mean, one of the things that jumps off the most, you mentioned a point differential. There is no other team that's even remotely close to them in point differential that's not in the playoffs. Like, when I say in the playoffs, like basically guaranteed to make the playoffs. Relatively, I say guaranteed. But you look at every other team that's just positive, even by 1 point. Every team that's just positive is in the playoffs on both NFC, AFC. And not only is every other team that's positive in the playoffs, they're like, it's almost a guarantee they're going to make the playoffs. And that's just positive by like 1 point. If you just remove the records, look at point differential, you can pick out your 14 playoff teams right off the bat. There's only one playoff team between both conferences that has a negative point differential that's in right now. It's not Tampa because Tampa's technically out right now. They played before Carolina. They would be negative, but I'm not counting them. So it would be the Bears at -1. Every other positive team is in the playoffs as of right now. You could argue the next closest is the Chargers at +28. Could fall out theoretically if the Chiefs play right, but they're comfortably at the moment at least in. So it's like and the Chiefs are you just mentioned +63. They're very comfortably in. They have a higher point differential than Jacksonville, who's definitely going to make it. They're higher than the Niners, who are definitely going to make it. If you just looked at that, oh, you're making the playoffs. But that's not the year. I think the Chiefs are the poster child of this season. If you look at this, and this has been, I know every NFL season feels like it's its own unique season, and that's what's great about the NFL, the parity and whatnot. But this season of all seasons, when you're talking about maybe Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes not making playoffs, which is very much on the board at this point. As a matter of fact, statistically likely. They are the poster child of what a weird season we have, and they're probably not going to make it. I think at this point, their big hot seat, I mentioned Nick Sirianni. Their big thing is going to be Kelsey. Like I said, statistically, he's playing okay, but I do watch the games because they're mostly on their prime time. So everybody watches him. I feel like everybody can say the eyeball test that he looks like he lost a step. And, Andy Reid is he's a made man. And he could go with retirement because he's old enough. That's actually, that's an option for him. He doesn't. But Kelsey's gonna be the one that's you seem distracted. You got the wedding, the podcast, all these things that is gonna be almost a scapegoat. Why don't if you take it off, we could blame that. I mean, sometimes it happens. The Saints, Drew Brees missed a bunch of playoffs. Mahomes is better than Drew Brees, but there's times where people miss the playoffs. But I mean, this is just shocking. I don't have words for how shocking this is. Chiefs are on my naughty list for sure. For what they did.
It's the most guaranteed naughty list team of all time
Absolutely.
right now. The way they looked in the Super Bowl last year, we thought they would come out with fire. Mahomes
For
is a
sure.
winner. I'm not questioning Mahomes at this rate. I don't care how they finish the season. But I'm really curious how they're going to look versus the Chargers and the Broncos. That's going to tell me a lot about where this team is. And I think they should scrap it to rebuild. And Andy Reid is still not tremendously old, but he's going to be 68 next year. He's going to be 68 in March. That's getting up there. You're going on the decline. And yeah, for the team with a +63 point differential to miss the playoffs, tremendously missed them by 750, -750 right now. The Lions also have a positive point differential, by the way. They're barely out of the playoffs. They're +90. They are -120 to miss the playoffs. But you're right. Every other team is doing great. Every other positive point differential team is doing wonderful right now.
I guess the correlation of Lions and Chiefs is you could say they're in two of the toughest divisions. I wouldn't say the toughest, but they're top three. Probably the other one would be the West with the Seattle and the Rams and the Niners. But if you don't like the Chiefs, and a lot of people don't, they're a very polarizing team. A interesting poetic justice could be, say the Chiefs win this week, and then they win next week, go to the final week, Broncos, Chargers. Broncos will be locked in. If the Broncos basically bench their team and say, we're going to let the Chargers win to keep the Chiefs out, I think that could be kind of an interesting little shot at a rivalry. It'd be oh, oopsie, we're not going to play it today, basically, because it can line up very much. If the Chiefs win this week, and let's assume they win the Raiders game and the Titans games, I think they'll definitely win those. Then it could easily come down to they just need one loss from the Chargers, and it'll be against the Broncos. And that would definitely be a little, you could call poetic justice from the Broncos' point of view of them trying to get back at the Chiefs. So I kind of want that to line up just for the juiciness of it, so to say, of the storyline. Plus, the longer the Chiefs, I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but I want them to win this week because the longer they're in it, just like the Cowboys, I want the Cowboys to win this week. The better it is for us, as football. So you want them to stay in. Even if they miss the playoffs, you want them to be alive for the next couple of weeks. I don't want them to be eliminated this week. So I'll definitely be rooting for them this week to keep alive.
I want every game in Patrick Mahomes' career to matter. Tom Brady did not have any games that didn't matter. I don't care. I mean, I do care, obviously, but I'm not going to knock Mahomes for being the second greatest of all time if for some reason his career ends and he's just that dominant. Joe Montana on the list too, and he's competing versus the greats automatically. Him coming out in his rookie year, only playing one game, but his second year going 50 touchdowns. That's incredible. And they almost guaranteed to make the AFC Championship game. But it's crazy that a consistent through line that we have in every single podcast this year
Mhm.
talking about the NFL is talking about the three behemoths in the AFC, the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Ravens. And they're all, for me, on the naughty list. They're all
Yes,
pretty much out of the playoffs. I mean, literally, the Bills are the only team in the playoffs of those teams, and they're sixth seed, 9-4. And I thought you were joking a little bit when you said the Patriots were going to win this division. I'm like, look at the odds. But, they got a 2-game lead now. The only teams looking for that bye right now, realistically, is the Broncos and the Patriots. Two teams that are obvious nice list teams, I think.
for
Two
sure.
teams have been
Extra presence.
consistently at the top. The Patriots, the Rams, the Seahawks, and the Broncos have not moved from the top four in a few weeks when it comes to sharp football analysis power rankings. They haven't moved. And the only teams I see being consistent, like I was excited about the Eagles because they were winning tough games. The Broncos may not
Mhm.
have the biggest, craziest point differential, but they're winning tough games. Right now, they haven't lost since the Chargers in week 3. They had back-to-back losses. They started the season off win versus the Titans, loss at Indianapolis and at Los Angeles Chargers. And then they beat Bengals, Eagles, Jets, Giants, Cowboys, Texans, Raiders, Chiefs, Commanders, Raiders. Not a lot of great teams there, but they're winning.
No.
And they got the Packers, Jaguars, Chiefs, Chargers to finish the season. Holy smokes, is that a powerhouse of a schedule? So I'm excited to see what the Broncos can do. I don't think they have enough offensive firepower, but Sean Payton, he's making it happen. And this year has proven that teams like the Jaguars and the Texans, teams with elite defenses, can compete. But can they compete in the playoffs, like long term? Like last thing I'll say is the Broncos, the Patriots, and Eagles are all tied at plus 1100 to win the Super Bowl. And the Broncos and the Patriots clearly are playing so much better than the Eagles. But it's just the fact that the Eagles have that championship pedigree and they did well last year and they have a lot more talent, especially on
Hmm.
offense.
For the Broncos, it's funny because we just come off the Chiefs. They remind me a little bit of the Chiefs last year as far as constantly winning one-score games and getting that gaudy record. And you feel like for the Chiefs, they took to the Super Bowl, that it can't last forever. Like you can't keep winning tight games like this and expect to win it all because it just takes that one mistake to lose those tight games. And I'm a Giants fan, so I watched every play of that Giants, which is up there for craziest comeback of the year. I mean, we have a lot in that. Yeah, football gives us a lot every year. So I don't want to just say that it definitely is, but I think it's definitely up there for the craziest comeback of the year. And when you see games like that, you're like, that's not a consistent recipe to win a Super Bowl. Obviously, they got the win, so it's a recipe that's working to get the regular season, and they might get the number one seed. I don't think they will because of the schedule compared to the Patriots, but I can't see, and I've seen other Bronco games too, the way they won so many one. That one jumps at me, but they have several other comebacks. I cannot see this team winning 3 straight playoff games against a good team. Because now you're in the playoffs, you're playing the best teams. I just don't see it happening. But I think that would happen if they win the Super Bowl against, say, the Rams, the best team in the NFC. Do I think that would happen if they were in the AFC Championship game and they were playing? I mean, even the Bills, I'm not that high on the Bills, but the Bills, the Patriots, like if it's a close game, I just can't imagine you're going to keep getting those bounces that are so luckily in your favor. So I don't know if I'm on an island here. I'm still not a believer of the Broncos. They're on my nice list here, extra presence, but I'm not a believer as them as a true Super Bowl threat. I'll say contenders and to get there, but I think they would lose to any team in the NFC. Honestly, any team that got there from the NFC, I think would beat them. Or the contenders in the NFC. So I don't know. Good, great for them, great season. I can't actually see them like close your eyes. Can I see them holding the Lombardi Trophy? No, I can't. I can't. I can't. Not the way they're playing. Too many close wins. Too many lucky wins. Not to be mean,
No, definitely
but yeah,
not.
I can't see that.
They're not in the top four. Those teams, the Patriots, Broncos, and Eagles, they're out of the top four. They're 5, 6, 7, and according to Super Bowl odds, Vegas, and I agree with that. I think they're playing well. The Patriots and the Broncos are kind of in the same boat for me, but the biggest difference is I trust the Patriots quarterback a lot more. Yeah, he's young,
Correct.
Drake May, but he's balling out. He's an MVP caliber player right now, and they're plus
100%.
110. That's a lot of points. Like they've
Third
been
best in the
really
NFL.
dominating. Yeah, they've been dominating teams. And they're in, I wouldn't say a good division, but they're battling with the Bills. And right now
Yeah,
the
it
Bills
matters.
are the AFC champion, the AFC title champion. Like, sorry, Vegas's number one team, according to, their odds. They're number one. The Bills are plus 900. So I'm curious. Let's stick with this division. How do you feel about the
Okay.
Bills? How do you feel about the Patriots?
I was early on the Patriots bandwagon. I'm not saying
You were.
preseason, but by like week 3, I think it was actually before they played the Bills. I'm like, I think they could upset them. The next week they did upset them. I'm a big Patriots fan. The AFC more than the NFC, because I think everybody would agree at this point the Rams look like heavy favorites coming out of that conference. They're just playing so well. But for the AFC, I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm gonna take my prediction. Patriots go in the Super Bowl. I'm taking the Patriots to get out. I think
There
the
you go.
AFC is a more like there's no heavy favorite. There's a lot of things happen. There's no Mahomes. Lamar Jackson probably won't make it. Who knows? But I'm taking the Patriots. I'm a big believer. I think they got the two things. They got the coach. They got the quarterback. Mike Vrabel, you'd have to be a bad organization to fire him. I wonder who would do that. And you look, who's arguably the worst team in the NFL? Fired Mike Vrabel. And it might be unfair that you had Tom Brady for like 20 years and then you get like a 5-year gap and then like, we already got another franchise quarterback. And the Dolphins are sitting here like, but we haven't had Dan Marino in 25 years. But, and the same division. I think they got the guy this year. If you just want to talk in a vacuum of this year, not all time, not the last decade, he's top 5. And you could argue top 3. And I'm not saying MVP also counts your record. But I'm just saying even the way he's playing. So take out the record of because they have an easier record. He's playing top 5 quarterback. And I just like what they do. They just don't, it goes back to coaching. They don't make mistakes. They're very balanced. Like the Bills are a little off balance. They have the great pass defense, but with the worst run defense. I don't feel like they're as balanced. The Bills have a lot more. They rely on Josh Allen and running the ball. They don't. Their receivers are toward the bottom. They have tight end and running back. The Patriots don't have great receivers, but they just seem like a more balanced team. And every year, it is kind of a team that things just kind of fall into place. It feels like for the Patriots, they don't have crazy injuries. Everything's just kind of working out well. Things are lining up for them. And they get the 1 seed. You get the bye. That's a huge difference. And I think they will get the 1 seed. You have cold weather, which a lot of times is a huge advantage for those home games. And you're not going to have to face Mahomes. I'm going to use the word, not going to have to face Lamar Jackson. So if your only opponent is the Bills and you already beat them once, even if they lose this week, beating them once is just that. It's like a mental mindset. It's like, we can take these guys. We can beat them. Meanwhile, the pressure, Josh Allen is going to be the most pressured quarterback in the playoffs. Like, he can't lose. Lamar Jackson's gone, Joe Burrow's gone, Patrick Mahomes. He has to win a Super Bowl this year, or else what do you do? Like, everybody's got to be fired. I mean, I'm ready, Sean McDermott, like, so there's going to be pressure stacking on him. And Drake May's going to be playing house money, absolutely killing it. So I like them to go back.
So I agree with you that the New England Patriots are going to be the number one overall seed and get a bye. We just brought up the Broncos' powerhouse schedule. The Patriots, they're finishing the season with the Bills and the Ravens, but then the Jets and the Dolphins.
And the
It's a
Ravens, we
lot
don't know if that's
easier.
that hard a game.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So this week is everything. And if they win this week, I think they got the 1 seed locked up, honestly. This week,
I
they're
do too.
facing the Bills. They're hosting the Bills. They beat them in Buffalo weeks ago, sure, the week 5. Similar to the
Mhm.
Broncos, this team has not lost since week 3. They're dominating right now. They started the season, they lost to the Raiders. We didn't even know if the Raiders were good. Actually, a lot of people thought the Raiders would be the sleeper 7th seed in the AFC. Obviously, that didn't happen. They're not doing it. They thought Pete Carroll, they'll
That's true.
figure it out. Monster of a tight end. They're just not a good team. Then they beat the Dolphins, lost to the Steelers. Okay. But then they powered through. They beat the Panthers, Bills, Saints, Titans, Browns, Falcons, Bucks, Jets, Bengals, Giants. Once again, similar to the Broncos. That's why I like to put these teams in the same bubble, and Vegas thinks so too. They are not destined for greatness this year, according to who they have. But if you look at the AFC, it's a cluster. There's nobody like amazing. It's like good defenses, good offenses. Nobody has both,
Mhm.
And the Buffalo Bills, yes, they have like the best player in the world right now in Josh Allen, but he starts slow, and it's concerning me. And every week, that's my biggest focus. Second from the Eagles, I'm definitely all eyes on the Eagles, especially this year. But
Mhm.
I want to figure out like how great is Drake May, and why is Josh Allen starting so slow? This is a team similar to the Steelers back in the day with the Le'Veon Bell contract situation that it took them up until the end, and they were also on Hard Knocks. So the Madden curse is real right now with the Eagles, and the Hard Knocks curse is happening with the Buffalo Bills. This is a team that still is favored because they're in the playoffs and they're still one of the top three teams preseason in the AFC. So, of course, Vegas has to give them plus 900. But the Broncos and the Bills are not far behind. There's only 200 points between them. And that's not a lot when it comes to Vegas odds. So, yes, I think if I had to pick a team, I'm picking Josh Allen. I'm going to pick the better quarterback. But I'm really excited to see what the Patriots could do. I have a lot more faith in them with Drake May, with a better coach too, I feel. Mike Vrabel is
Yeah,
he knows how to get this
definitely a
team.
better
And
coach.
like similar to kind of how the Suns are doing it this year, all of a sudden they got rid of KD, they got rid of Bradley Beal, and they're building with this like core philosophy of toughness and grit. And they got Connor Gillespie, they got Dylan Brooks, they got like tough guys with Booker. So they have a great player, and they're doing really well. I mean, they got blown out by OKC, but who doesn't get blown out by OKC? That's a team, unbelievable. So, but we'll stay with
Another
football.
day.
Yeah. So you're saying, I think we both agree that like we think the Patriots can make the Super Bowl. I just feel like I want to give the Bills credit, but I feel like it's kind of like last year with the NBA playoffs when I was like, I want to see what the Cavs can do. I want to see what the Cavs can
Mhm.
do. Let's wait for the playoffs. Speaking of, the Cavs look horrible right now, but you know, it just wasn't their year. It wasn't the time. So like I think I'm on the bandwagon now. I think it's the Patriots conference. It's crazy because this team won 4 games last year and they're not very different, but they
Mhm.
got Stephon Diggs. And I know he's ready to ball out versus the Bills. And they already won. So if they, all right, it's almost, how about this? It's really hard to beat a team twice, but it's really hard to beat a team 3 times. Do you think it's almost like better for them to lose this week so that if they play in the playoffs, because they're probably going to play in the playoffs? What do you believe in that?
I think that's actually a misnomer.
Yeah.
Teams that played each other 3 times, the team that won the first two is 8-4 on the third matchup. It actually wins
Oh,
twice as
wow.
often. So it's a little bit of a misnomer. If people say, and I get the concept of it, and maybe I've even heard like former players say it, so I'm not saying I don't believe them, but it could also be that you're just a better team. Like you go to the park, you like to play basketball. Like if you play a pickup game against a team, you beat them 2 times in a row, particularly maybe handily. Like you're not really like, oh, it's really hard. Like no, we kind of know how to beat
Yeah,
them.
we
And
got
I'm
him.
not saying
Yeah.
it's not hard because there is variance. So that's a little bit of a thing. But and I remember the year the Cowboys had a great year with Tony Romo and the Giants lost 2 games in a row, and they beat them that year. I think they ended up on the Super Bowl that year. The Cowboys were like 12-4. That was the Jessica Simpson game. If we could think about anything about Tony Romo, Cowboys beat them twice that year in the regular season by a lot. They had the bye. They played. But the Patriots are going to get the bye. I can almost guarantee you because I'll just go back to the Broncos very quickly. The Broncos' remaining schedule, I believe, is the toughest in the NFL. If it's not, I'll just read it off to you again. They have the
No, it
Packers, the
is. It has to
Jaguars, the
be.
Chiefs, the Chargers. Every team there is going to make the playoffs and has a great record, except for the Chiefs, which even though we rip on
Yeah.
them, is still obviously going to be a tough game. But division games, like I think the Broncos could lose 2, maybe 3, because especially they've been playing with close margins. Like they're going to drop at least 2, at least maybe 3. So I think the Bills could even lose a game and they'll still pick up the 1 seed. That one, I mean, Patriots, the 1 seed is really important. They might not have to play Josh Allen. They're going to get a bye. We don't know how the bracket's going to break down. So they might not even have to play Josh Allen if they get lucky. But let's
It's
go to the
just
Bills.
that Dolphins game is sitting with me. Like the Bills, they're in Miami and they lost 30 to 13. Like they just look so bad. I know they've beaten some good teams, and they really only lost to the Patriots, Falcons, Dolphins, and Texans. And we've seen those 3 teams, Patriots,
Mhm.
Falcons, Texans, they have great defenses. And the Falcons, they won again yesterday. They're not making the playoffs, obviously, but like they're destined for something next year. But that
I
Dolphins
mean,
game, it's just that was bad. And like a championship team can't lose a game like that.
the Bills' next 3 games, they got Patriots, Browns, Eagles. I know the Browns are like, well, they don't have a good record, but they got a great defense. My point is they got 3 games they're
Yep.
going to get beat up in. Those are all
Yep.
physical defenses. Obviously, you know how good the Eagles are. The Patriots play physical. The Browns are arguably the best defense. They're up there, probably second to Texans, but like that's going to be a team. You're getting beat up. And that makes me think of Josh Allen get beat up. And I want to take this point because we've been talking about Burrow, Mahomes, and Lamar
Yeah.
Jackson maybe missed the Josh Allen doesn't win the Super Bowl this year, I'm going to make my crazy hot take. I'm going to plant my flag that him, Lamar Jackson, and Burrow, the 3 of them, will never win a Super Bowl. All 3 of them. And I'm sure Vegas would disagree if you clump that as one bet. I don't think they're ever going to win a Super Bowl if Josh Allen doesn't pull it off this year. I think for Burrow, he's
Mahomes
injury
the
prone. I
guy.
think you can say that now. I'll do one on time. Burrow's injury prone. I think that's a fair statement. Like, you got to do a lot. And I'm sure you heard his comments yesterday that almost sounded like he was considering retirement or something. He's saying he was not having fun. And if people haven't heard it, look it up. He mentions not having fun and he needs to figure out how to have fun again. And people are saying it sounded almost like Andrew Luck before his
That's what I'm
retirement, where it's like
thinking.
a guy
Yeah,
that's beat up a lot. That was, the superstar quarterback comes in the league, gets beat up, and suddenly that could be a thing. And the team hasn't made the playoffs. This will be 3 straight years. So I don't feel confident of Bergen there anytime soon, especially in a bad organization, Cincinnati. So you're not confident they can do stuff. And Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen are going to clump together a little bit. And they're both running quarterbacks, and running quarterbacks' peaks are much shorter. We just have to
definitely.
accept that. So yes, you could say, oh, they're still in their peak, to have 5 or 10 years left. No, no, no. That style of quarterback, they got like 3 years left, maybe a little more for Josh Allen because he's bigger. Lamar Jackson, he's a little injury prone. So I'm kind of writing off Lamar Jackson as far as he's injury prone. And he's got maybe, I think, 3 more years at this level because his legs are so important and he's more injury prone. Josh Allen, maybe he could squeeze out a fourth or fifth year because he's a little stronger. But you can't tell me the hits aren't getting to you. And as the hits get on to you, and now Josh Allen is lost. He's been in the cupcake division. He's been in the guarantee win the division, compete for a bye every year. Whether New England wins this year or not, they're going to be there next year and better because they got, I think, they got a top 10 cap space. I don't know off the top of my head. I know those top 10. It's really high. They got cap space. Drake May's going to get better. He's only second year. They got another year on Mike Vrabel. Like, they're going to be better. That's going to be now a team in their division that they have to compete with every year. They've been locking up the division by like week 10 normally. So I can't help but think myself, and I'm not saying the Chiefs aren't going to be bad for a while, but Mahomes has his rings. The Mount Rushmore 4, Mahomes got his, and the other 3 might never get theirs. And if people think that's impossible to happen, go look at Dan Marino. Go look at Dan Fouts. Go look at some other quarterbacks that people are like, oh, they'll definitely get one done one day. And it never happened. Go look Philip Rivers, even not to a lesser extent. People
He's
like, I
back.
think early on, yeah, that's a good segue. But early on, if you remember, it was like the third year, I think it was, they were like a 12-win team. People were like, oh, this is going to be a great team. Like, it's not unprecedented for somebody to think that this guy's going to get a ring one day. Could look at NBA players too and say, and it doesn't happen. So I'm planting my flag that the 3 of them combined will end their career with 0 Super Bowls. If not this year. I'm going to give
Yes.
Josh Allen the chance this year, but if not this year, the
It
biggest
is
opportunity ever.
his. He's got to do it. He's got to do it. I mean, he's got to really make a statement, this next couple of weeks. They really need to, make something happen. And they're looking a little better, but, the
But
last 2 weeks versus the Steelers and the Bengals, I don't know.
for me,
Maybe you're right. That
playoffs,
that's
but no other
that's a
wins.
hot take. That's a hot take. But
That's what I'm saying.
before we move on to the NFC, the Game Over podcast with Max Kellerman and Rich Paul also talked about Lamar Jackson going to the Falcons, which is kind of perfect because running quarterback indoors kind of reminds me of Michael Vick in there. Plus, all they really need is a quarterback, and they're good. And I don't know if Penix is really that guy. And I still have faith that Lamar Jackson, he has gotten better every single year. But who would leave a team like Baltimore? Like, that's a well-run organization. And then they were talking, like I mentioned before, about Mahomes going to the Cowboys, and I feel like Josh Allen's a lifer when it comes to the Bills. And
Mm,
yeah, Joe Burrow kind of reminds me of Andrew Luck, like very different personalities. Joe Burrow's cool, Joe Cool, and Andrew
mm,
Luck's this nerdy architecture guy. Hey, I really like that bold take, man. It's unbelievable. And look, the odds are you're not going to win a Super Bowl, period. It's really hard. It's really hard to win championships. That's why we talk about
very.
the greatness so much. And all of a sudden, the Patriots left like 2 years. Like the Chiefs die and the Patriots are
Mm,
back at the same time. The Patriots were smothered, 4-win team last year. Then all of a sudden they're leaping to a potential 14-win team. Like, whoa, 10 wins? That's incredible. So I want to give them a lot of credit. I'm really excited to see. I feel like there's a little playoff preview. When you talk about the AFC, we got Denver having the bye, and then we have Houston versus New England, Buffalo versus Jacksonville, LA versus Pittsburgh. Those are some great matchups. I don't know who's going to win the AFC right now. I'm really excited to see what happens in the playoffs. But as we mentioned before, the 3 top teams, according to Vegas, to win the Super Bowl are all in the NFC. We have the Rams, the Seahawks, and the Packers. So let's start with the Packers. The Packers are a team we talk about a lot. Packers
we
are a
do.
team that everybody loved in the beginning of the season. We didn't really love them. They're looking pretty good right
No,
now.
I've never
But
bought in.
are you bought in? Are you at all bought in? I mean, they're not that I love it, but they're plus 700. They're the second best odds to win the Super Bowl. I don't like that. I still am strolling against that.
I'm a little bought in by comparison to where I was to start the season and midway through the season. And I know we've kind of been on the same page, not buying in, but yeah, those odds to me, I'm completely against. I'm not as bought in as Vegas or anybody has been this entire time. I think for me, I would put them like maybe fifth to win the Super Bowl and maybe less, like fifth at maximum fifth. To me, they're firmly behind the Rams and the Seahawks. And I can't be talked off that. Like, that is, I'm not even having a debate. To me, I think those are just better teams. I could debate them for, I'd say, probably third in the NFC. And then I'd have to throw in an AFC team just because, even though in a vacuum, you could say the best teams in the NFC this year, and I think we would agree with that. There's also that means you're playing against them to get to the Super Bowl. So, like, who has, when you look at easy path, you can say, oh, well, New England gets to bye, then their odds have to be better because they have to play one less game in your competition. So for me, I would put the Packers somewhere around fifth most to get to to win the Super Bowl. I'm definitely more believer than I had been, but I'm still not fully there. I still feel like there's just something that's a little off or missing that I'm not fully bought into. And we've been mentioning point differential a lot. That's one. Like, they're great at plus 75, but they're half of the Rams and the Seahawks. Rams 152, Seattle number one 161, literally double up the 75 of the Packers. So to me, they're way better teams, those two particularly, just in the NFC, that I would say, to me, look like bound to play each other in the conference championship. I don't know if that'll happen because of the seeding, because you have the wild card seed is one of them going to get. But like, those to me are the top two. And then you have the Niners, who kind of pull like a Houdini act. I don't know how they're winning. They have all these injuries, but it's impressive. I mean, that one is like, I want to give the whole coaching staff like coach of the year over there almost, because Robert Saleh, what he's doing with the defense on those injuries, is amazing. And it's just the coaching over there, offense, defense. We got Mac Jones coming in, coming out. The Kittle misses games, he's in and out. Ricky Purcell misses the games. Jennings misses games. The defense they lost their best two players and injuries everywhere, and they just keep winning. That is phenomenal coaching what they're able to do. I have to give them massive credit for what they're doing.
Yeah, we knew San Fran was going to win regular season games. That was the thing where we're like, whoa, how's this team going to win 11? Vegas knows something, and here they are, 9-4. I don't buy them when it comes to the playoffs. I don't even think they're really worth talking about. But yeah, absolutely. Credit to them. It's a team built on injuries every single year, and they still get it done. Great coaching. I love what they're doing. They're alive. But there's two teams that are absolutely dominating the NFC, the Rams and Seahawks. They're the
Right.
only two teams with 10 wins right now. Dominating, like you mentioned, bind over plus 300 between those teams. It is insane how much better they are than everybody else. When you come to the AFC, plus 110, we were talking about dominating number one with the New England Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
When we have a plus 50, 152, plus 161, like, that doesn't even make sense. This Seattle Seahawks team is really surprising everybody each and every week because they got Sam Darnold.
Definitely.
The Rams, we could kind of predict. Great coach, great quarterback, two amazing wide receivers in Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. And Kyron Williams at the running back is great. They're like, get rid of Cooper Kupp. Seattle's like, we'll take him. And guess what? Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to compete with Puka Nacua as the best wide receiver in the game. So they may not have Stafford, but Sam Darnold is a number one overall pick, like, functional quarterback. And they also have great running backs and potentially an even better defense than the Rams and a great just culture. This is a team that's 6-1 on the road, and that says a lot. They're ready to compete. They're on a 3-game win streak. I think the only two teams I really want to talk about are the Seattle Seahawks and the Rams. These are teams that I believe should be the top two. We have the Rams at plus 380 to win the Super Bowl, and Seattle Seahawks at plus 800. So Vegas is saying, like, look, we're only going to give it like 4-1 odds, but the Rams are the clear favorite. And I think that's fair due to the amount of talent they have and how good they've played. They have similar talent to the Eagles, but they've obviously played a lot better. And then all these other teams we're talking about, when it comes to like the Seahawks, the Broncos, the Patriots, they're playing great, but they don't really have the firepower mentally for us to be like, this is a team that can win it. The Packers, people say have the talent. They have a bunch of flashy players on defense, but we've talked about each and every week, especially without Tucker Kraft. They got a bunch of mediocre offensive players. And Jordan Love is new. He hasn't proven anything. Yeah, they got Micah Parsons added to a good defense, but like I just don't see this team being this dominant team that everybody is so scared of. And I'm not believing it. And I'm not worried. I've said it every week. When I look at who I'm worried about with the Eagles, it was the Rams very consistently each and every week. Tampa had a little play, but they've really dropped off, sadly. Sorry, Scotty. Seattle Seahawks
And
are
that's
coming. They're coming. That stock chart is coming right up, and I want to buy it. I want to buy in. I've seen enough. It's absolutely incredible what this team is doing.
yeah,
This
yeah.
is
I'll just for a second add on to your Packers not buying. The Packers have a 2-game losing streak and a loss tie followed back to back. So they have twice where it's like they've either lost 2 in a row or the other time they lost on the tie to Cowboys. None of the other great teams have 2-game losing streaks. The
they
Broncos,
also
the
finished the
Patriots on the other
year with
side, the Rams, Seattle, they don't have 2-game losing streaks. So 2-game losing streak just by itself. And we're nitpicking, but we're talking about like the best of the best Super Bowl odds. We're not talking about teams that are falling off disappointing seasons. So you take the top 4 teams, and I'll just throw the Patriots argument just because of the point differential. I'll throw the Broncos, Patriots, Broncos, Rams, Seattle. Those record-wise top 4. Those top 4 teams, Packers are the only one with a 2-game losing streak, and in addition to the 2-game losing streak, they have lost tie, which is almost like a 2-game losing streak. The other 3 teams don't have a 2-game losing streak. So to me, that just is a symbol of the Patriots. Like the Packers, I don't know if you want to put your finger on it, but something's wrong. So that's why I'm going to step behind. We'll go back to the Rams, Seattle. Wow, that's a tough one. I guess you have to give the edge to the Rams just because Stafford is playing at an obscene level of the touchdown to interception ratio, particularly. But I can't help but to think about the game. Even though the Rams won it, I watched that game and I felt like Seattle was the better team. Sam Darnold has the 4 turnovers. Seattle was in the game to the last possession, even though they lost the turnover battle, but I believe it was 4 was a total turnover battle. I didn't check the fumbles, and they were still in it to the very end. So, and I mean, they are scary. They just look faster than other teams. They play so hard that, man, I want to see them. They're going to play each other, and that's going to be
yeah,
maybe it could be a conference championship preview. That'll be a good game because I'm excited. Not this week, the week after, we get to see them play each other. The Rams should
exactly.
get the 1 seed. Seattle does have the harder schedule, but it's going to come down to that because obviously somebody's going to get a loss right there. But man, I like Seattle. Seattle's just fun to watch. It's a team that I've enjoyed watching this year. I just like watching them. And Minnesota's got to be killing themselves that they let Sam Darnold walk out the door and they deal with their stuff. But that's a different discussion.
Absolutely. So the Seattle Seahawks finished the year with the Rams, Panthers, 49ers, and now the Panthers are for real. They may only be minus 145 to miss the playoffs, but like they could easily beat Tampa. They could supersede Tampa. They can make the playoffs. Like this team is good, and Tampa is on the downfall. So like I would take those odds for them to make the playoffs. I don't think it's as big of a lock as
I like
people are
that bet.
saying it's going to be. So this is a team in the Colts, the Colts are coming up this week for Seattle. The Colts are terrible right now, all
Yeah,
of a
they're going to
sudden,
drop like
because
a
they don't
stone.
have Danny Dimes. Yeah, they're done. Sadly, this is a team we've liked. We put in the basket of the Broncos and the Patriots, but I'm really excited for this week. Bills Patriots next week. Seattle versus LA. Like we're really destined. That's why I want to make sure like we talked before this. I'm so glad we did. And we have a quarter of the season left, guys. 4 more weeks before the playoffs. But the playoffs is pretty much fixed. We're only looking at a couple
Yeah.
more teams that can make it. We're going to see if the Panthers can hold on. We're going to see if the Lions can make it. Pretty much the AFC's locked up. We definitely have
Yeah.
to figure out, are the Bills for real? This is the year Josh Allen's going to have to really get over the hump because those big horses are not in it.
And
Like
there's
Scotty
young
said,
horses that are coming now. So you got to watch out for the young
yeah.
ones that are coming too.
And CJ
I agree
Stroud
with you.
could be one of them. He's a guy that played amazing his rookie year. He had a bad year last year, but it's Houston. I'm not giving this, like, nobody has ever succeeded in Houston. Right now, the Houston Rockets and the Houston Texans both are extremely physical teams. Strong, long
And
men that could, like, dominate. And I like what I'm seeing in Houston. Right?
in today's NFL, which obviously we have rule changes that particularly with the pass interference. I mean, people don't want to hear it, but Houston's defense statistically, they're like up there with these, old Ravens, Bears defenses as an incredible defense. You just look like points per game, yards per game. Anytime you have a defense that good, you can win a Super Bowl. I'm not saying they're favorites, but you can definitely win a Super Bowl. We've seen it done with, subpar quarterbacks names that just had a dominant defense. So you have to give the Texans at least a puncher's chance in every game they play because that defense is so good that I wouldn't mind putting them as second, third, definitely third in to me in the AFC. I think they're up there. That defense is so good that it like offense could get hot. If the defense stays hot, you can win a Super Bowl that way. We've seen it done before. We've seen amazing offenses get knocked down. There was a Tampa team. Raiders were number one offense that year. They lost. We've seen number one offensives in the NFL. It's like, oh, they scored via the Seattle team against Peyton Manning. Oh, they set the record. It was the most points scored in a season ever. Peyton Manning has a touchdown record from that year. 55 touchdowns. They lose to Seattle. If you have a dominant defense, and the Texans have a truly dominant defense, then you can beat anybody. So that's a team I wouldn't want to play. I'm not thinking they're going to win the Super Bowl, but just in an individual matchup, that one round matchup. If I was in the AFC, I'm picking the Patriots, for example. I'm like, I don't want to see the Texans. That's the team I don't want to see. And I'm hoping the Texans play the Bills because either they win or they beat up Josh Allen. Either way, it's good for me if I'm a Patriots guy. So I'm like, I want the bracket to go where it goes Texans, Patriots, which could happen because the Bills will probably be a wild card. The Texans are going to win. I don't have to win a division there. So that could match up. It definitely could.
The last thing I want to talk about is the only division we really didn't talk about, and we can make this quick. I know we got to wrap up soon. We have the Ravens and the Steelers, two teams that are negative point differential, two teams that aren't really even projected to do much in the playoffs. The Ravens just lost at home versus Steelers, and that's why I feel like they're done. Yeah, they're only one game behind. Lamar Jackson's just not playing well this year. He's not looking great this year. And I'm just hoping that last game of the regular season in Pittsburgh versus the Ravens, that's going to matter. Pittsburgh had a dominant win this week, and I'm really proud of what they're doing, especially after back-to-back losses versus the Bears and the Bills, two teams that I do like. Do you feel any way about the Steelers and the Ravens? How do you want to close this podcast?
For me personally, it's fun that the last game is going to matter. It should, unless one team loses a couple in a row ahead of time, it should matter. I'm not really interested in either one at this point. I think I would rather Pittsburgh make the playoffs just to see the chaos that could happen in Baltimore, because chaos can be fun to watch sometimes. And I feel like this Lamar Jackson, I don't know if he's hurt, what's going on, but I don't need to see him in the playoffs, and I don't need to see Aaron Rodgers either. But I kind of want to see the chaos of if the Baltimore misses the playoffs, how that works out. And it helps my long-term future bet of no Super Bowl for Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow. So I want to see a little bit of chaos there and see what happens. But, that's another good coach, because there's a lot of good coaches this year that could be on the hot seats. There's Harbaugh on the hot seat. I mentioned possibly even Nick Sirianni. You dabble with the concept Andy Reid could retire. There's great coaches that have to, Sean McDermott, if they have a bad season. There's great coaches that have to at least be considered. Do we kind of go in a different direction because we keep banging our head against the wall?
Yeah, the Steelers are 7-6. Mike Tomlin's over 50% streak is in jeopardy right now, but I feel good about them. They got the Dolphins and the Lions coming up, then the Browns and the Ravens. So, no bad teams, no amazing teams. They can really prove a lot this week. But, I think we knuckled down, gave you a nice little playoff preview. We're 3/4 of the way through the season. We opened up, a couple months ago with the first quarter podcast. This is that last quarter. We're really focused on the last quarter, the most crucial quarter. It's the fantasy football playoffs. Scotty's in it. Unfortunately, I missed it, which is devastating, but we had the most competitive season we've ever had. I was only 6-8 and missed the playoffs. The worst record in our league was 6-8, which says a lot. There was no absolute dumpster fire teams or easy cake wins. So I'm really proud of us this year, and I'm ready for next year. And I really hope the Eagles can do something. I hope the Giants can get, a few more losses so that they can at least get a good draft pick. I love the NFL draft. Really excited to talk about that in a few months. But as always, Scotty,
keep it nerdy.
Peace. See you guys next week.